What is going on, guys? We are back with another episode of the Culture Wave Media Network. Today, we are doing a Tribeca Film Festival interview with the team from Lemonade Blessing. So I have the privilege of being here with the director and the DP of Lemonade Blessing, two close friends of mine. I'm really excited that they get to be here. I'll be your host for today. My name is Zach Miller, and I'm also introducing Chris Merola.
Hi.
And Harrison Kraft, our DP.
Hey,
Great, guys. Thank you so much for being here. This means a lot to me, too, just that we get to talk about this movie. You guys brought me onto the project. And when we started filming last summer, just immediately it jumped off the page to me how this film was full of charm. It was full of charisma. It had, coming of age themes that we've seen before, but nothing that was stereotypical. I thought there was just a lot of soul to this project that really just jumps through with the dialogue. And this is a testament to your writing too, Chris. I just really love
thank you, dude.
Love what you guys put together, and the team that we had on this and you put together, Chris, was just very special. So before we get into the film too, just starting out as filmmakers, I want to ask both of you guys, what are films or things that resonate with you, or movies that resonated with you when you were starting out that really kind of shaped your creative style, or got you inspiration for this project too? What was like the gap that was bridged for you guys with movies and even anything like art related?
Wow, that's really interesting. Harrison, you want to go first, or?
No, you go first.
Okay.
I also bring this up in my face.
This is gonna kill me. The order is gonna kill me. Okay, so what's really interesting is, like, I was kind of raised a kid of the internet, and I think when I look at some of the editing decisions, or even the way we cut out of certain scenes, like even from the script level, it reminds me a lot of the sort of like jump cuts that I'd see in old like YouTube poop videos, like back in the day. You know what I mean? Like shit posty, like just hard cuts. But yeah, I think I almost went to school to be a therapist, and I think that like I really I like the idea that you can like learn a lot about a person's psychology, that like a film is an opportunity to explore why a person is the way they are. And so like, I definitely like films that are more psychological, whether that means that it's like characters that we're dealing with in a kind of detailed way, like something like a Marriage Story, like a Noah Baumbach or Greta Gerwig thing, or if it's more like a Darren Aronofsky thing where the psychological elements is the way in which the camera and the editor used to inhabit someone's perspective. And that goes doubly so for like Safdie Brothers stuff as well. So I think for me, a lot of the inspiration was just like, can we try and write like a character who makes sense to me psychologically? And then can I inhabit his subjectivity with all the different departments, with coverage, with edit, with sound, with score? Can we inhabit his perspective? And so any film that has that kind of voice where like you inhabit someone's perspective, or if the character writing is really detailed, that's a big inspiration. Like I actually just saw Dog Day Afternoon the other day. I hadn't seen that before, and I don't know. I just love it when someone feels so real, like they just feel like I could talk to them and be their friend. So
you're more focused on like authenticity and the character pieces, and kind of like even that's really interesting. I don't know if you ever told me that with the therapist stuff too, but like just how you have to get in with the psychosis of a character and just like understanding their motivations and that kind of thing. So yeah,
totally, man.
That's great. Harrison, like how about you? When like you're very visually oriented with just like looking at styles, like are there DPs that stood out to you, or are there movies that really influenced you and you were like, I want to take the leap into doing this professionally and that kind of thing?
I guess, when I was a kid, I had a DVD player. My parents would, be like, you can pick out one DVD this week. So one of the weeks I got the Star Wars trilogy.
Cool.
So I watched all 3 discs, and there was a 4th disc, and that was the bonus disc. So of course, me, my 6-year-old self watched the bonus disc, and I'm like, wait, people made this? So, that launched me into a lifelong, journey of like, I have to do this. So I think I've gone through a lot of phases, and I've worked a lot of different jobs. I've tried all the different avenues. I tried editing. I tried, directing. I tried this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, I still like doing it all. It all really interests me. I think just the idea of creating is so much fun. But I think it clicked for me like when I watched I think I watched A Clockwork Orange in like 8th or 9th grade, and that was like, oh, this isn't just a movie, it's art, it's fun. Like this is really cool. So I think after that that's when I kind of pivoted, and I'm like, I have to do this because like it needs to be done, like, and it has to be done right. There's craftsmanship to it. And that's like, because before that it was just fun and games, but then I'm like, no, this, like, there's something for me here, and I have a chance to do something that other people are trying to do too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at like, 'cause I feel the same way too. Like where movies took me, it was starting out with like those things that were world building and like so expansive, and then maturing with other stories that were like stories that don't have to be that big. They can be centralized on the characters, or they can be subjective stories where everyone takes something away that's different and that kind of thing. So I totally get where you're coming from. But I also think, like we were talking about craftsmanship too, the camera really does complement the narrative in this film like a lot. And I think that comedies often get overlooked for their cinematography in that sense. I think some directors might just do higher key lighting and then they slap a couple filters on it and then it's a simple walk in the park. But with this film, I felt like there was a big focus on how can the cinematography play into what you're trying to say thematically or emotionally in certain parts. So Chris, for you, when you're developing the story, what was it that like drew your eye to Harrison? Like what was his style that was like really captured the essence of like this film for you?
It's so funny. This actually seems to happen for a lot of people where the first person they look at ends up being the person for the job. But because they're like, I can't be that fucking lucky. Like, they end up looking at like a bunch of other people. So like Harrison was like the first person I'd considered for it because my friend Davis had made a micro budget film with his friend Luke. And I was really impressed with how it was shot. And they told me that like, oh yeah, the DP's like ripping these like 10-page days. It's like, dude, he's just doing everything himself. And I was like, whoa. And when I watched Harrison's stuff, I felt very young and I felt very alive. And those were feelings that I really wanted people to have when they watched the film. Like I wanted some level of nostalgia to bleed through this, so people could like think about their own like childhood or adolescent experiences of like falling in love. And then just like, I really like the idea of like kind of creatively tussling with people who have voice and who have vision. Like I don't really believe in like auteur theory. I don't really believe in like a genius with 1,000 helpers. I really think that like the best stuff comes from really sharp, really hardworking, passionate people just wrestling it out and figuring out what the best decision is. And so I really look for people who try to think for themselves. And one thing I noticed when I was looking at a lot of DP reels was that they would often put the first thing in their reel what they think that I think would look impressive, like
that's smart.
A car chase, or some crazy scene with a bunch of extras, or the scene with the biggest actor that they've ever done. And I would feel kind of insulted, like my intelligence was insulted when I would see that, because I was like,
oh, okay.
This
so
is
you don't like that.
Well, yeah, because it's like you have one opportunity to show me who you are, but you're showing me what you think I'm going to like. But what you think I'm going to like is kind of shallow and superficial. But what Harrison did with his reel is like it immediately spoke with his concerns as a filmmaker, the sort of things that he's interested in. And I noticed there was a surreality to Harrison's images, that a lot of the stuff that Harrison makes, it occupies a hyper reality. Like it's just a little more colorful, a little more contrasty, a little more shadowy. And so it kind of feels like you're in real life, but you don't quite belong. And that's a lot of what John feels. So I thought that we could have a real nice marriage of our sensibilities there. And I'm really happy it worked out.
Yeah. So, and then just between the two of you, like our shooting days it was like 20 days for the amount of stuff that we had to get. So I think, what are those early conversations like when you guys are trying to focus on the style of it? Like you're trying to get, like you were just talking about how a lot of stuff emphasizes what John was going through emotionally, but there are certain things that you have to compromise on if it comes down to like time and that kind of stuff. So what were like those prep conversations like, and were you attacking it as there were essential things like, hey, this has to be the way that we map it out, and then other stuff we'll try and work around, it'll be a little bit more flexible too? So what was that like prep period like for you guys? Were you shot listing? Were you doing other stuff that was a lot of prep or anything like that?
I definitely was shot listing.
Yeah. You storyboarded the whole movie.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
great.
But probably the most helpful thing that Harrison had a few really helpful activities. Do you want to tell him about the key images?
I think so. Chris is a director that has an incredible amount of ideas, and no, I mean that in a good way. I mean that in a good way.
He had a lot of ideas. He don't know what the fuck he gonna pick, but he got some ideas up in there.
But so, you know, when we first started talking about it, you know, he would come in and he'd have a million ideas for each scene. And, you know, I knew we only had 20 days. So I'm like, okay, realistically speaking, if you had to cover each scene with, you know, if you had to get everything you needed in a day, assuming that you only got one shot for each scene, I need you to tell me what that one shot, like what is the one image in each scene that you want the audience to walk away with, ultimately, because that's the one that we're going to prioritize, right? That's the story at the core of it. So I think once we started working on that, we were able to boil down what the core value of each scene is, and that not only helped us kind of shape like what is the story visually, but also it helped us fully realize the emotion of each scene too, right? Because I think the image that you pick to represent an entire scene really shows everyone on set like, oh, so this is the movie we're making.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I think that's great. So kind of like the premise of the film too is really cool. You know, like I was saying too, there's some stuff that, you know, we've seen before that I think a lot of people can relate to. So that's why I feel like there's a little bit in this movie that is for everybody. But you know, it deals with sexuality, it deals with religious oppressiveness and rebelliousness and that kind of thing, broken familial relationships. Was there any other inspiration, like why this story specifically? Was there personal inspiration? Was there just, you know, movie inspiration? Like, why did you want to make this your debut feature film?
You know, it kind of was a mixture of both, like the personal and the practical, I think. It definitely, you know, when I showed up to USC, Ryan Coogler is kind of like considered the prototypical, like the ideal, perfect use of your time at USC. And so anytime that you did anything, you know, you'd try and ask around like, hey, like what was Ryan Coogler doing? Because obviously he performed really well and then shot right out of the gate. And I'd heard that he had written 5 first drafts by the time he had gotten out of USC. So I tried to do that. I only got 3 first drafts done because I'm just like not as prolific.
That's 3 first drafts. This is great. Yeah, I mean, yeah,
it's okay. Yeah, but like so, Lemonade was the first one I wrote. I wrote it by like adapting like memories that I had from my adolescence and just I wrote it out of order and then stitched it together basically. By the time I was entering my 3rd year of USC, I was kind of like, okay, like it's time to, I want to do a feature. Like film school, they'll tell you like do a thesis film, do a short film, take it to festivals. It'll be your calling card. You'll get representation. Someone will give you money for a feature. But I don't know. It just seemed a little sus to me. Like I kind of wanted to just go right for the head. Like, why would I put all my money into a short film? So I had to ask myself, I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be putting a lot of myself into a first feature, it needs to be something personal. It needs to be like, if I can never make anything ever again, what would I do? And then also because it's the first film and I don't have any pedigree, it probably also needed to be something a little broad that could appeal to a decent amount of people. And so Lemonade kind of checked a lot of those boxes where it was personal to me. Like it was very much about my upbringing, my first love, my relationship with my mom. A lot of it came from sort of memory and from experience. But I also felt like the coming of age genre is sort of, you know, it's a popular genre. People really enjoy it. I also felt like, you know, there's always great scripts and great performances in that genre, but there's never like a ton of like visual identity all the time. Like, of course, there are some films, like I think Submarine and like 8th Grade definitely are able to have like a decent amount of voice in the filmmaking. But I kind of saw both an opportunity and like a sense that like this would be a good thing to like make a splash with the first feature because, you know, obviously like a lot of Americans identify as Christians or Catholics. And so like, you know, if I had made my first movie like the most niche and the most weird one, I may have been like jeopardizing my ability to like cross over, I guess. Okay. So it kind of felt like for me, like Lemonade was a perfect happy medium between, it was something I genuinely felt on a really personal level, but it also was, I think, a really good entry point if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think it's great too, because even like Coogler, he writes about stuff that he's very familiar with, and then he goes just outside the genre or something. You know, like he blends things that he knows along with other like things that might be fictionalized, and that's I think some of the best writing that comes from anybody too. So I think that really comes through in this too. I know that a lot of people were probably interested in like what came about, what was the origin story behind it, but another thing that I really appreciate about this movie too is like I feel like a staple for the coming of age film is the sense of like searching for your identity in that sense. And John just has the main character, the protagonist of this film. He just has no firm footing at any point in this movie, and which leads you as the audience member to feel like anxious for him because you're like, oh man, he's not hitting it with church. He's not hitting it with his mom. He's not hitting it with Lilith, who is his love interest. And I think that's like so demoralizing too for like, you know, we've all been there in our own ways as teenagers where we're like, man, what is my purpose? Like who are the people that I want to gravitate towards? So I just really love how a lot of the movie is like soul searching for John, and he is not a bad person. He's just like doing funny acts. You know, he's acting out and he's rebellious and stuff, but he's not a bad person. He's just trying to really find like who he is. And I really, there's one scene in the movie in particular too, I won't get into spoilers, but just where he has like a whole moment reflecting with his mom, and he's like, I don't know where I am. What the exact
the
word
me part. I don't have a me part.
I love
don't know
that.
what that looks like. Oh, thank you, man. Oh, it's my favorite line.
No,
yeah,
it was really good because he's trying to be something in the eyes of everybody else that he hasn't had time to be with himself and figure that out. And I felt like that really hit a nerve for a lot of people. I was talking about it after the fact, and that really came through. So I mean, you know, it's a testament to both of you guys and your work there.
Oh,
but
thank you, man. I super appreciate that, dude.
No, of course. Something that I also noticed when you were shooting was that there's like a lot of attention to medium close-ups and close-ups, totally. Harrison. Something that might feel different from like comedies sometimes because it can be like pretty wide, and there might not be a specific style to some other like buddy comedies and that kind of thing. Sometimes they're just shooting coverage, but with this film, it definitely felt like the composition complemented the scene that was happening in that kind of sense. Was there like, how do you guys believe composition elevated the film to like narrow down those messages? Like you kind of talked about it more with John already, but was there like a specific scene that you could give as an example where you were like, I want to evoke this response, so we chose this shot sheet and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think oh, sorry, do you have something?
Not off the top of my head.
I think like the fuck Jesus scene is pretty like the sort of like train leaving the station moment in the film, and it's the sort of thing where like when you read it on the script, it's just the dialogue, and so the hinge of the scene is really clear, right? She wants him to say fuck Jesus, he's trying not to say it, or if he is saying it, he's trying to say it in the least sacrilegious way possible, which is a common thing that he does. And so, you know, I was like, I guess the thing that I think about when I look at the thing on the script level is it's like, okay, what is it? It's a comedy scene. It's like, it's math, right? It's like positive and negative. It's like, say it, no, say it, no. That's basically what's happening. And I was like, well, like, can we make it like more interesting? Because like, you know, in theory, it could be shot like the Big Bang Theory, right? And so it's like, you know, just a two shot and a wide and, you know, some singles. But like, I thought, you know, it's an anxiety inducing thing for John. And so I thought it would be interesting if we start the scenes in more mediums or medium close-ups. And then as the dare is issued, you know, we move, Lilith goes into medium close-up and then close-up when she issues the dare. And then John's an extreme close-up for the rest of the scene. And then all we're seeing is like out the corner of his eye, like people looking at him, his fear that like others could be perceiving what he's saying. He could be getting in trouble. He could be getting judged. So I guess my thought was just like, it's almost like yes and, where it's like, okay, we know what this scene is accomplishing like comedically and for the story, but can we add like some subtext? Can we maybe inhabit the anxiety that he's feeling as a religious boy who's being asked to, you know, curse the creator of the universe out for a first date? And so, yeah, I think at every moment, like we would just try and like bring the subjectivity into it. I know a common tool that we did throughout a lot of the scenes was like, if the scene's getting more emotional, you just move from sticks to handheld. you do it in a very sly sort of way where like the scene's already well underway, and then all of a sudden like it's in close up and it's shaky and it's like, oh shit, like now you're inhabiting something.
Yeah, I might also bring up like let's take this scene behind the shed, for instance, where they're kissing.
Oh, yeah.
You shoot that like a traditional romantic comedy. You know, you would frame it in a 2-shot. It'd be cut off at the chest, and it would just it wouldn't read as uncomfortable for the main character. It would just be like a series of jokes, right? He's like, it'd feel like a Seinfeld bit, right? Because he's like, do you think I'm this? Do you think I'm that? Is it good? You know. But because we're so locked in on them, because we're with the main character, and this was something that Chris proposed early on, is that like, you know, throughout that prolonged one take, we're actually panning more and more over to John, the main character, to be more and more with him and have Lilith more out of the picture. I think that just subconsciously is going to put the audience so much farther into what the main character is feeling than if we just kind of let it play like a traditional comedy would. And I think that added a lot. I think we always look for those moments to sprinkle in, like, how can we get closer to these characters?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And it really comes through in a lot of those scenes, and like the anxiousness, especially for like his frantic behavior. He has to problem solve, and he's also his quirkiness at the same time. He doesn't know how to solve a problem, and he just kind of freaks out, you know. And
he's such a quick thinker too. Like he can always like think of the worst lie ever, and then like keep digging himself like more.
Yes.
Like Jake's improv is so good for that as well. You know?
Yeah, I wanted to move into the performances now too.
Yeah, of course.
So John is played by Jake Ryan, and Lilith is played by Sky Alyssa Friedman, and Janine Sorales also plays Mary. So she's the mother in the film. But I think that something I really appreciated too is that the film is really dictated around John and Lilith versus John and Mary. And just he's trying so hard to dually satisfy both of them, but he knows that they're polarizing opinions, and she's basically a full atheist, right? Like she's completely opposing just everything that Mary stands for. Mary is like the extreme, like we have to do everything by the book. So I really love how just putting a character in the middle of that, and he's still trying to be loving towards each person. It's almost impossible for him in these circumstances. So with with those relationships, how was it? What were the conversations like for John and Lilith, and then John and Mary? What were like the differences? Like, was John always kind of leaning away from Mary, and then always kind of like Lilith is the person that I've been looking for to get out of this situation? Or is that just different? Like what was your interpretation of like, what is the path that John was going to go down, and how are these going to oppose each other?
Well, thanks for that question, because like I definitely think that is like the heart of the film. And it was something that was like very much on my mind, which is that like most of the literal external conflict in the film is supplied by the relationship, the romance, and yet I felt like there was something interesting to explore in the way in which like, why is John attracted to someone like this? Like what in his own upbringing and his relationship with his mom and his childhood, as well as Lilith's childhood, because we get to see her house, what contributes to their romance and like why they're here. And that's kind of why, without spoiling it, we structured the film, the beginning and the end, or before the epilogue, with two types of scenes that allow us to kind of reflect on that. The kind of idea for me was just like, he kind of wants to be everything for everyone, but he can't do it. When you come of age, like when you're a teenager, it's the first time in your life where you really start questioning that your parents, maybe not everything they say is gospel. And so we do catch John at a time in his life where he's running for Lilith. But I would almost argue that like, even though Lilith, in terms of her theology, is the opposite of Mary, they have interesting commonalities, right? They both kind of know what they want. Yeah. They're both like not really afraid to tell the men in their life like who they think they should be. And so in a weird way, even though Lilith is the polar theological opposite, I think John finds a comfortable dynamic there. And that was always the goal for me, is to try and like draw attention to the fact that even though they are opposite and they cause a lot of conflict on the surface, there's like maybe like deeper psychological damage that's like causing John to be interested in her And that was definitely always the case. Of course, you know, the degree to which the final edit reflected all the scenes that we shot and this, that, and the other thing. Like, I definitely think we lost like one Mary scene in the edit. So I do think, yeah, the final film is maybe a little more lopsided in the John and Lilith direction. But I kind of like that a little bit, because it kind of distracts us from how important the John Mary thing is. And so when it kind of creeps its way back in at the end, I think it's maybe a welcome surprise, hopefully.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. Another thing that I also want to add too is that it felt like, you know, when it gets up to that part where he's like talking about my me part, John has been measuring his like sense of worth with each of them almost the whole film, and just like the little acts that he has to do for both of the leading women in his life. So I think that's really interesting how you can take two opposite figures and he finds comfort in both things. And I think that there's also like that runaway teen behavior, cool thing with Lilith, and how you know, this is like super impulsive and he gets to do sexual experimentation at points because he's trying to just figure out like what he's into, what she's into. That she's trying to also go against her parents' upbringing and that kind of thing. So they find that bond together. So I thought that was like, you know, like there's people in our lives too that we might just have we feel like we can escape with them in that kind of sense. And like even if it's not an oppressive situation from parents or other family friends, I thought that was really great how you can have like an escape and also like with your friends and romantic partners in that kind of sense.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's so true. That's such a big part of like growing up, is the feeling of like, you're like, fuck my family, we can just like make out behind a tree forever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's weird. I hadn't consciously thought about that until, like, obviously it must have been a part of it, but you're so right. You create like your own little almost family with each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Something that was also really cool, I was just thinking about it again today, but the women of the film, or Lilith and Mary at least, they kind of have a lot of the dramatic themes centered around them in the story. But then we get to the group of guys, and those guys are so hilarious, man.
Yeah,
I mean, I was going to say too, Angelo, played by Miles J. Harvey, to me, he stole every scene that he was in.
He's so good.
That kid is so well-rounded. His timing, his comedic punchlines, everything was so great. His improvisation and stuff, just with like, you know, playful locker room talk, but in a 13-year-old's perspective or 14-year-old's perspective. I thought that was great. What can you say about Miles and how adding the best friend to a protagonist, like a supporting character to a protagonist, like what was the role of Angelo to John in that sense?
It's such a great question, and thanks for spotlighting.
Got you.
Miles is so freaking good, dude. He's so great. You know, that character up until draft 5 was actually 2 different characters. I had the sort of raunchy, like sex obsessed friend, and then like John kind of rescues like another kid from like being bullied, and he's like the sensitive, sweet friend whose like parent had the Bible and who lost the parent. And my friend Davis, actually the one who I knew Harrison through, he read the script and he's like, dude, I hate this nice friend. It's like, dude, it's like, it feels like every scene you have with them is just like a scene that you as the screenwriter felt that you had to have in the story. And I was like, he's such a good point. I was like, what's like an elegant thing I can do to like remove waste from my story and have fewer characters? I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if the nice parts of this character and the loss that they've suffered could be combined with the sexual depravity of this character? I may end up with someone more full-bodied. And so I did that, and I called that the Angelo draft because I created like one character out of 2 characters. It cleaned up the script, cleaned up the length, clarified a lot of the arcs. And then when it came time to cast, Miles gave probably like the most like grounded performance. So actually, like the other performer who plays Connor O'Connor, Alex Jameson, he actually was like my favorite for Angelo for a while, because he submitted a really funny. He's just like, hey, don't worry about it. He's doing the cake farts. I gotta find his version of the cake farts. It was really good, and he honestly would have been excellent for it as well. But ultimately, there was something about the gravity that Miles inhabited the character with. He made me see something in the character that I'd never seen up until that moment, which was that maybe all of this adolescent depravity is an armor that he's putting on
Yes.
to act normal and cover up the fact that honestly, based on what happened to him last summer, that kid's grown up like 5 years in just 5 months. And he's just playing a fucking role right now. He's got a lot going on. He refuses to show any of that to anybody. And so, yeah, I think it was a long, long journey, but I'm so happy that I combined those characters because that really gave it, like, I think the weight that made it really worthy of that performance that Miles saw in it. And I was so happy that he grounded it so much.
I think he really puts that through in his performance too. And then by the time you figure out more of his background later in the film, you see why he was going through that protectiveness and that armor. I like how you said that too. Just, that's another relatable thing for teens too, is they put on facades of themselves. Sometimes they put on their own armor and their own defensiveness, or they're trying to impress people too. Like, you're in a lot of peer pressure when you're in high school environments and that kind of thing. And Angelo's character is definitely most of the comedic relief of the movie, but I also feel like he just has that deeper sense to him, because even John doesn't necessarily take him seriously until those few moments, which I thought was really beautiful too. But they have that camaraderie and that bond that they're trying to just deal with things together. I'm trying to not spoil too much either, but that kind of thing. But another performance that was really pivotal to John in the film is his brother Phil, played by Michael Oloyede, and also best dressed of Tribeca. I thought that was the running joke that night.
Dude, he is so stylish, and like his Instagram is always like popping the fuck off. Like he is always just suited up at a party, like a nice, important looking fucking party, dude. Yeah, he is slaying the self-promotion game. Like every time I see him, I'm like, dude, he's so cool.
Yeah, no, and I feel it exactly. Yeah, he is such a cool guy. I didn't get to talk to him too much because I wanted him to just focus on his stuff. But he's like so good at playing subtlety too. He's probably one of the only like subtle characters that it doesn't have like a slapstick gag or a deep like inner working. He's kind of more,
he's the only like not flawed character in the film, actually.
And there's even moments, even though he's a father or a brother, he's still trying to figure out his own identity with the church, but he's also very encouraging to John the whole film, of just how he wants him to do his soul searching. He wants him to do it on his own terms. He's not trying to be that oppressiveness that the church represents sometimes for John.
Totally, yeah.
So I love that there was another father figure in his life because of his broken home. And just a testament to Michael's work as well. I really loved how you basically have all over the map different characters, and they're not necessarily archetypes either. You don't have like a nerd, you don't have a jock. This is like a very easy trope that could go any way in a comedy with a high school film and a coming of age film nonetheless. But like, you really stuck to the lanes of like the emotional weight of the character before just coming up with gags, because I think a lot of people think of comedies and coming of ages of like those jocks, the nerd, the love interest, or the goth girl, like that kind of thing. Like they kind of play away from what is the story actually trying to say, but like your story just has that tunnel vision where it's focusing on, we might not get all the answers, and John might not get all the answers, but he's going to meet these people along the way, and his life is going to be changed because of it. So I really like that.
Thank you. I'm so glad you feel that way. Yeah, that was such an important thing, even down to the casting, that like, I think like, maybe it's just like, I think casting, like people who are making films, like they just maybe don't trust people's intelligence enough to like believe that like who a person is will come through in their performance. Because like there's always this need to be like, oh, it's a love interest, better make them super hot. Oh, it's the horny character, better make them super weird and eccentric. And it's like, oh, it's the protagonist, better make him super cute and suave so that everyone falls in love with him. And it's just like, it's just so like unrealistic.
It's not human.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like, that's why it was so important to me with like everyone we cast. Like, yeah, Lilith's the love interest, but like, I'm not making Euphoria. I don't want people to be titillated by these scenes. I want people to believe that these are two people that could have, incorrectly dated in high school and then realized maybe they weren't right for each other. So I do think resisting archetypes, of course, like the script helps, but also it comes down to the casting. Because I think we could have cast a different version of this that would have been pretty, demeaning and silly and not that interesting, I think, Yeah,
of course. Harrison, do you want to also talk about just the locations that we've been in too with this project. There's a lot of Catholic school. There's jumping around different spots. What was that like to adapt, like on an indie film level? Like how is the adaptability as a DP, and what were some challenges that you had to face that actually ended up working out? And to me, everything felt very seamless too. Like there was never moments where I was like, oh well, they cheated that way because they don't want to see this, like it all felt very seamless with your composition and the direction. But yeah.
Well, thanks for the question. This was definitely the biggest production I've had to do to date. I've never dealt with that many locations, even on the prior feature film that we shot. I think we did that one in, I want to say 12 days. So we had a whole nother week and some of production on this. But, we had great locations for the most part. I'd say a lot of them ended up changing throughout production too. So like we'd plan for one thing and then we'd end up getting something else, and we just had to be able to work with what we had. And I had a pretty amazing team. Danny, my gaffer, I've been working with him for years, and he's just extremely adaptable, and we have similar sensibilities. So I think he'll know what I want before I can even ask for it. So like I can walk into a room and he'll just point and be like, I'm doing it already.
I love Danny, dude.
It's great in that regard. But it's something interesting that I was actually talking to Chris about today in the car. Is like we did a lot of pre-production work, at least between myself and Danny, and Chris was involved with a lot of this stuff too. Is we do overheads and pre-planning, and as it turned out, like a lot of the stuff that we did pre-planning for either didn't make the cut or was changed. The location was ultimately switched out. So I think it's funny, like people that are watching the movie, they're never going to think like, oh, this seems out of place, just because like even the loading dock scene, like that was such a blessing in disguise. It was originally supposed to take place under bleachers, and we were for weeks we were just deliberating over like, what do we do about the bleachers? We were looking for bleachers all over New Jersey.
There was bleachers near like children's playgrounds. We were like, are gonna end up on a sex offender registry because like they're gonna be making out, and like
there was one that was like 50 feet from a playground. We're like talking about the possibility of like building a giant
camera.
And like I was like getting like pre-annoyed, and Harrison was like, Harrison, you can't be bringing flags to this location. You're not gonna be dressing this up. It's gonna be natty light. That's it. And then
we got to, so we were filming day 5, so the end of the first week of shooting, we had to fake Chris's uncle's tile warehouse as the school that they were in. And like, I'm looking around in the morning, and all of a sudden I see a loading dock. I'm like, let's do this here, and so it was really just, I think there's certain scenarios that you just have to be like, this is plausible because I can see it happening. Like I don't think everything is going to make sense. And maybe if an audience, if they take a step outside, they're like, wait, why are they on a loading dock? Like, it might not make sense. But like, I think
loading docks.
Exactly. Loading docks is perfect. So like, I think you have to lean into, work with what you got and like just make it feel real, right? Like, I think that's ultimately what we had to do with Lemonade and a lot of the school locations, other than shooting in Chris's childhood home where, he knew it like the back of his hand. Like there was certain things that we didn't even have to fake. It was just how it really was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out too to our production designer, Jared. But you've worked with him on a couple other projects too. But what is the conversation like with you guys as department heads? And like Harrison, was it comfortable to work with somebody that you've worked with before? And then just, you're all in sync and trying to come with the best conclusions for the scene. And like, what are those conversations like with the three of you and the department heads? Harrison, you could answer first, but.
Sure, yeah. So I worked with Jared on a feature before this. He was like kind of a second unit production designer for a sequence we had to do down in Florida. And then we did another short together after that. That was like a 5-day thing. So, we got along swimmingly on both those. Like he's just awesome. Like you've worked with him, he's the nicest guy, and he's just like, he will bend over backwards to get something done. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Like, and he's just so ready to do it. Like he has a solution for everything. But I think the conversations mostly came down to like, what direction are you going to be looking? Like, what do you want to be there? And then I'm trying to think, like, most of those conversations probably occurred between you two of the accuracy of a lot of the faith-based stuff. But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, just before I get into that, like, Jared has so many gifts, and like, I mean, I'm sure you know, because you worked with him, like, he is so great at advocating for his people and like being like a kind and just person. Like, he always like puts in so much work, so that he never asks anyone, I think, to do anything that he wouldn't be able to like do himself. He was so good because like at multiple points in the production, he would speak up and advocate for things that either his people need or other departments needed. It's so interesting. Like, I never even heard him really ask for anything for himself. Like, he was always advocating for others. Like, I remember the hotel thing where like you hadn't gotten your hotel. We were in Long Island, and he's like, "Hey, like we need to get this guy his hotel," and like that was totally reasonable. And it was an oversight on my part because I hadn't even like basically when we were in Long Island, like we had to do a company move from New Jersey to Long Island. And I'd gotten us a big Airbnb for us to stay in. And then we showed up to this Airbnb.
That's so funny.
Oh, it was fucking haunted. My brother in Christ, it was.
We have to talk about this.
It was, okay. You walk into this house.
Yeah, don't scare anyone off,
No,
but you should tell some of the story.
You
Yeah.
walk into this house, okay? Red stains, fingerprints on the walls, Bibles everywhere.
Headless dolls.
Inside the Bible, red handprints in the Bible. Okay, stains, odd charcoal drawings on the
Locks
wall.
on doors.
Empty
Picture frames are like deliberately slanted like 40 degrees.
skewed, empty closets with nothing more than a single boxing glove.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we broke into a. Maybe I shouldn't admit it. Whatever. We
There's
broke
like dirt all over.
There was dirt.
It was
Backyard.
Like
Abandoned
Abandoned van,
van. Abandoned gym. Okay, there was a. We tried to go into the garage, and we found like this odd intermediary room where there were dozens upon dozens of naked plastic dolls on the floor. And then I opened the door to the garage, which was very capacious. It was really large. It was a large fucking garage, and it was stuffed with chairs. I'm sorry, I'm hitting the
And
equipment.
mannequins.
It was mannequins, chairs. I have a video of it. Are we allowed to share the video in this? Should I?
Maybe
I'll
we'll
send
put
it to you
in-
afterwards.
We have assets.
No, I will share. I'm comfortable because I got out of there. Just so you know, the person running the Airbnb was some third party guy who like represents
crazy.
Airbnb. So I was like, I want a refund. The guy's like, what's wrong? And I was like, listen, like I'm a level with you. Like, is this your house? He's like, no, I'm just a guy who runs it. I'm like, bro, like that place is not right. Like there's something wrong. And like I listed all the things. It ain't right. There's something wrong. That's a crazy thing to say. Saying that ain't right implies that there's something wrong. But dude, I sent him photos. I was like, you give us a refund. So anyway, guys, it was chaos, and we had no idea where the hell we were gonna go.
This was all at 2:30 in the morning, right?
Oh, yeah.
So-
And we had 4 days left of production because it was on day 16, the first day of the final week that we went to Long Island. So I smuggled like 7 crew members into my dad's house. My dad didn't know. He thought it was like 3 people. He didn't realize. That's okay. But we had some leftover. And so it was a bit of a shit show in terms of like, we got to get our people lodging. And so there was a day like following up that Jared like really properly was like, in the morning, he was like, hey, like make sure that this hotel thing is sorted out. But like halfway through the day, it wasn't sorted out.
Oh yeah,
So he went and talked
and
it
he knew
over.
you guys were sorting it out, and
No, but
you
it's
know it's an
important to stand
urgency.
up for it.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But
Yeah.
all to say,
Yeah.
Jared's an incredible leader.
Yes. Yeah.
Just beyond his like actual like abilities as a creative, like I just love him as a person. He's an incredible person. Now, as far as the creative collab went, yeah, I mean, he is so depthful and well researched. Like I knew that he was going to be the guy for the job when I asked him. I'm like, hey, can you just send me a couple sample images of how you do John's room and just your explanation for why you would make those decisions. And he really thought it through. He's like, you know, I feel like John's tendency might be to be messy, but then Mary's cleaning up after him. So there'd be pockets of the room that might be messy. And then, you know, he very much understood, you know, his interests in games and memorabilia. And it was clear to me that he was thinking on a psychological level. But then even beyond just the creative, in terms of just pure logistics, he was so great at keeping track of the Leviathan number of props and locations. I mean, guys, I think this was an 18 location film or something obscene. Like the fact that 3 people held this down with just, you know, a dream and a prop truck, it's like insane. It was so incredible. And a lot of these locations were not Catholic. In fact, none of them were Catholic except my mom's house. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
They
yeah.
all had to be dressed up. So you guys did incredible work. And it was such a joy to work with Jared. So yeah, the answer is he was just so psychological, totally understood what we were doing, totally understood character, bright person, creative person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also just like when you're up against the wall with an indie feature, like any project, that you have to be resourceful in that kind of sense. Like, I know the producers were really pulling for us too. They were really just
We
trying
did our
to.
best. Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
It was tough.
And it's hard. Like you said, 18 locations. I think someone pulled a favor too with the high school.
Dude,
and
Sammy
Yeah.
Goomba got us his high school. Shout out, Sammy.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. So it's all like Sam was great. There's just a lot of adaptability that we were talking about, that kind of thing. Do you like, if you were to give some advice about just indie features, like starting out, this was your debut thing, so there was, I'm sure, a lot of like things that you took away from this, but were there ever points where you were like, okay, I might have to sacrifice this part of the story, condense it, or just completely axe it, just because it was too challenging? Or do you recommend that people try to really get something in their script, or sometimes it's okay to have those compromises and that kind of, like, what was your perspective and your experience on this? Like, were you making any hard sacrifices?
For sure. Yeah. It's a real line that everyone has to figure out how to walk, because you're dealing with limited time, limited money. And then also I find that as director, you're kind of like a mediator between various departments. Like, it's every department's job to advocate for their needs and to do the best thing possible. And then you kind of have to call it as the director and say, okay, we've had enough time sort of fiddling with this. We gotta go, we gotta move. I definitely think I'm pretty happy about, how I walk the line between like adapting and like putting my foot down. I think maybe in the future, I'd maybe go 15% more in the direction of putting my foot down. I think there were a couple situations where we had a little extra time and I was like, people had some ideas for extra coverage, and sometimes those worked out really well, but other times I kind of knew in my heart that we had it. And I was like allowing myself to get one or two extra setups just because I was like, oh, I want to be open to like different ideas. And so I do think that if I had been a little more mercenary about like, hey, like, we got it, like, we can move on, I may have saved myself more time for other scenes like down the line, which could have been nice. But yeah, I would say, like, as far as advice goes, like, I mean, you're asking for like on-set production type advice?
Yeah, just like from getting a script off the page to the screen, and like, let's just say you're falling behind and that kind of thing, and it maybe not the most essential bit, but are you trying to still get all of that stuff, or are you trying to just say, hey, like, we have to get to the most important thing tomorrow, or that kind of thing? We don't want to run the whole production behind schedule. Is it like okay to condense things, I guess, is my question.
I think it is. Yeah. I think, let me think about like the best way to like kind of tackle it is like, I guess ideally you would have made good decisions up until production, so that, okay, for example, you cast really good people and they are the characters through and through in their bones, and you rehearsed. So now you have no fucking time and you whisper in their ear, hey, I'm so sorry, but I need you to do one fast, one slow, one more intense, one less intense. And we just need to do a line reading because we got to move. I don't know if you remember day one, we had like 14 setups to go through for that dinner scene at Lilith's house. And we had about 2 hours. And Carla was like, all right, GG, like, decide what you're cutting. And I was like, we can do it. I literally am just going to need to get 2 lines. I'm going to need to get 2 takes, a fast and a slow, or actually it was a more intense and a less intense from each angle. And we're just going to rip it. And like, we're not even going to do the whole scene. You're just going to say 2 lines. And so the reason why I bring that up is because if you've done the work to like a storyboard in advance, most of what you're doing on set is security. You're getting each of the coverages, the pieces of coverage, the whole scene from each piece of coverage as a sort of, favor to your editors who may not want to cut it the way that you were envisioning it. But if there's a gun to your head and you're out of time and you did your shot list, you may know how it's going to be edited. So in a pinch, the best thing you can do to condense is to be like, I know exactly what I need this angle for. I know exactly what I need this angle for. I'm not going to allow much overlap. I'm going to take a risk, and I'm just going to take exactly the snippets that I need and hope it cuts together. And lucky in our case, it did work. But only because I think we had done the prep.
Yeah. There's another thing I wanted to talk about too with, just indie films. Do you think, because Jake has worked quite a bit with Wes Anderson, Janine and him actually worked together too on Inside You and Davis, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
Mother and son, but there was a much smaller role in that movie. But so now they really got to flex their individual muscles on this one. Do you think, like with indie films, like features at least, is it worth going the extra mile for someone that is a little bit more established, or like a recognized face and stuff? Like, do you think that helps your chances with like festivals and just like getting other distributors and that kind of thing? Like, you don't have to get into like how you
it's
like
fine,
sign
yeah.
it, but just more of like what are like the conversations like to talk to somebody that is a little bit more established?
Thank you for asking this. I think this is probably one of, if not like the most important questions to ask and to answer too. Because like, I think there's this belief that if you get a really popular actor in your film, it's going to be great. You're going to be fine no matter what. I would always cast from a place of truth. Like, the actor needs to be the character. It doesn't matter how many followers they have. It doesn't matter if they might return your budget with a pre-sale. I know for Lilith, we turned down people, starlets who had like literally like 15 million followers across all social media, and they were willing to do scale. Like,
wow.
So the first thing I'd say is that there are not a lot of scripts out there that actors are excited to work on. Production in Hollywood has slowed down quite a bit. Our industry is in a state of contraction. So if you are lucky enough to have a budget and you're making a film and it is SAG, you can get way out of your league, and they could accept scale. Even if you had, say, a slightly larger budget and you were going to do, say, Schedule F. Schedule F is like basically you pay someone $80,000 for a run of show, and nobody on Lemonade got paid anything even remotely close to that. But I'm just saying that even if you have a slightly bigger indie film, you can oftentimes convince like very, very talented actors to sort of slum it with you, for lack of a better term, because they like the script and they like it for like a Schedule F pay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the first thing I would say is don't what's the phrase? Raise yourself short. Don't
sell yourself
short.
Yeah.
Raise yourself short. Sorry guys, losing my mind. Don't sell yourself short. Like, listen, like, everybody kind of understands at the end of the day when they're doing something for money and when they're doing it for the art. And great actors love doing stuff for the art. So that's the first thing I would say. But then the second thing I would say, which actually sounds like it contradicts the first thing, but it kind of doesn't, is even if you can get a famous person to show up in your movie, do not cast them unless they're right for that role. Yeah. It's about the truth of it. And guess what? If you can cast well enough, you might be lucky enough. I'm not saying we did this here, by the way. We might. Time will tell. But if you cast well enough, you might make a star instead of relying upon one. And that's what you want to be doing at the end of the day, is you want to make someone and put them into the role. They're so right for it that they now are associated with that role forever, rather than they show up and everyone's thinking about that other fucking movie they were a part of, because everything they've done after that role has been people glomming off of their fame and success, be like, I want this famous person, this thing. And now it's like a shtick and they're just doing the same thing every time. And it's like, you want to give an actor like a chance to do something consummate, something challenging that they've never done before, and they've got to be right for it. So Jake was just right for it. Like, he was just on the pitch deck. It was not about a consideration of fame or anything like that. This guy was right for it. She tried out. I could tell just from the moment she like turned towards the camera in her self-tape, which is supposed to be the moment where she sees John after he says, "Are your parents divorced?" That like little eye flick, like I kind of knew immediately that she was kind of it. And so always go for the truth. Just have the courage. You'll figure out the money thing later, but like, make the film the best it can be. Just make it truthful. But if there is a well-known actor who is perfect for the role, you'd be surprised. You might be able to get them. Yeah.
I want to also, Harrison, turn to you too, but you were mentioning the thing about followers and how like the industry is going down some rabbit holes that I don't think anybody expected. And it's going down some chasms that,
rabbit holes, chasms.
Yeah. There's some holes after the tribulations we've gone through with COVID, production negotiations, working negotiations. Just lots of stuff happening, especially for younger people coming up. But do you, like, Harrison, do you think this is something that could be hours of a conversation in itself, but so we'll only like raise the surface, but with like AI like coming up over the surface a little bit, do you think, and like streamers coming around, do you think that indie films still are making waves and they're having a resurgence? Do you think that there is a bigger opportunity for indie films to open the doors for those kind of things now that there's technically more platforms? Do you think it's easier to get an indie film scene, or is that anything that you've thought about at all?
I think this is a really
It's a big
question to answer, but
Could be an opinion
I
too.
guess
Yeah.
my summation of it would be that at the end of the day, truly creative people and people who really love doing this are going to keep making stuff that's unique to them regardless, right? I feel like maybe the issue everyone's running into right now, and this is something that you and I have briefly talked about in our messages to each other, but I feel like there's so much content, there's so much stuff out there
Yeah.
that people are saying this is the way to do it, right? And then people are copying those and putting out their own stuff and saying like, yeah, I'm following these steps, so I'm making something that's good. I'm making something that's clinically correct, or like But again, this is all just like, you have to boil it down to be like, at the end of the day, what is filmmaking, right? Like, there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Like, it's not about how pretty you can make the image. It's not how cinematic your video is, or your tutorial that you're making on a tabletop can look moody. It's just like, at the end of the day, it's all about self-expression. And if people will listen to what you're saying, and this is something that I was telling Chris about in the car, I think that it's so important that films like this get made, right? Because at the end of the day, like, we need to understand other people. We need to understand where they're coming from. And I think it's great that we can even get an audience for a film like this, because I think it gives me great hope that even in these really weird times with AI, we're afraid that our jobs are going to be gone, with the fires, the industry moving, the strikes, with all this stuff. I think there's a glimmer of hope in that, like, if we can make films like this even with our friends, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think that there's hope for an industry, whether it's the industry or something new. I think there's still something here, and maybe it's ending or maybe it's just getting started. We're not really sure. But I think just because something is dying, it doesn't mean that it's dead, and it doesn't mean that something else isn't being born.
That's really well put. Yeah.
Let them cook. Okay. Yo.
Chris,
I love jumping across the.
Yeah. Do you also have more like you want to add on that too? Just like where the industry's heading, or like just the opportunities that people are getting or not getting.
I totally second everything that Harrison said, so I won't repeat that. But one thing that I think indie film does really well is an acknowledgement of scale and a responsible use of dollars. Most of the waste that's occurring in larger films is they're throwing money at problems instead of ingenuity. And then there are also, I have a real problem with the winner takes most mentality that our industry operates on. Like, it kind of is like a mini form of the problems of like capitalism at large, right? If like, it's kind of weird that like Hollywood is ostensibly supposed to stand against billionaires and wealth stratification, and yet the way that many films budgets are structured is that one fucking actor gets the majority of the money. Executives are getting the majority of the money, and then the rest of the problems, you're just throwing a VFX team at it for 4 months to see if you can maybe make a film. It's being run like a business, and it's a business that's increasingly rewarding people at the top who, the executives aren't really doing shit, but the actors are doing meaningful work. And I think that the most reasonable way, I think, to pay an A-lister is to give them equity in the film that is equivalent to the value they bring to the project. And the reason why I like that better than money up front is because now you're building a ship that we all sink or swim with. So equity, you only get paid that if the movie is profitable. If you pay someone $30 million before your $40 million film goes to theaters, they've already gotten their bag. They have no reason to fight with you. But if they're getting if you're giving them like 20% equity and they're going to get 20% of the box office, and they get like a reasonable upfront fee of like a couple $100,000, I think that's so much more reasonable. And like, I think we need to move away from this glamorous idea that a life in the movies is sexy and it's cool and it's ritzy and it's wealthy and it's awesome. It's like, no, man, like we're crafts people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This guy's last name's literally Kraft, dude. But his man's called Kraft. No, like we need to like. It's just about work. It's like let's just do the fucking work. Let's not like suck our own penises at the Oscars. Like let's stop spending so much money on this shit. So I think the reason why indies. The reason why like sub $10 million films are winning most of the Oscars is because that's where a lot of the original thinking is occurring.
Yes.
I'm not saying you can't make an amazing $100 million film where all the money's allocated responsibly, right? Like, I don't think someone like Christopher Nolan is being super irresponsible, although he's probably taking a crazy director's fee. So maybe I take that back slightly. But like, I think that like we need to be more reasonable about this money, right? If we want to be good leftists, then we should all be making like comfortable living wages. Put the rest of the money that needs to be in it in the film. Let's all share equity with our people. And then let's sell it and we'll sink or swim at the box office. Yeah. So I think the answer is that part of the reason why Hollywood is contracting is because the people at the top have not given up their lifestyle creep yet. And if they give it up, then there's going to be plenty more for the working class people like us who are just trying to fucking make a good movie and like eat food and sleep on a bed. Right.
Yeah. And indie film puts you in that pressure cooker a little bit. Like, you're talking about big budget films too. Like they have like unlimited resources at points, you know, to a certain extent. But, you know, when I've even listened to other podcasts and filmmakers talk about it, it's like when you get all the answers, basically, at least like there's little excuses you have for delivering too. But when you're in a pressure cooker of, hey, we don't have a lot of options. We can't afford that location. So we have to do the second best thing and that kind of thing. So you really have to force yourself into those situations to put your heads together and find like what is the best thing for this project in that kind of way. So I liked everything that you guys said. I think that there is an urgency to like that is the focus of what the industry should be. That's kind of what it was born on, is like this is an art form. It's very subjective. There's no one way to do it. You can't completely monetize this industry because it's an art form and that kind of thing too. So I like everything that you guys said. But more of the waves of reception for Lemonade too. You guys got featured in Vogue.
That was fucking crazy, dude.
The other day, you guys were rated 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Fingers crossed, someone's gonna ding us. Someone's gonna ding us. We gonna get dinged. Yeah. I actually heard that we had 4 critics who refused to review the film because they hated it so much. So in theory, that means we probably deserve like a 79% if that actually went through. So whatever.
That's gonna happen. I mean, Chris. Look,
I don't care. I really don't care.
And at the end of the day, it's
Harrison's like, we're not gonna get distribution if you share this. Harrison's like, cut that.
It's the one guy.
This man's sweating so bad over.
No, it's just hot. There's a heat wave.
Name names. No. Yeah, but basically, like I loved how like it's been getting so much attention, and like because this is your debut feature, this is something like no one really goes into a film expecting for some of these things to happen, like really any of these things to happen. I know you guys are all like in the same headspaces too. It's just like whatever happens after this is what happens. But the best thing we can do is focus on making a good film. And honestly, because you guys focused on making a good film, it shines through, and it shined through for other people. Getting into Tribeca was an accomplishment in itself. And if it ended there, I think everybody would have been happy.
It would have been like, cool.
But it's crazy. And I mean, Vogue even said it's a sweet and raunchy, and as teenage years often are. And I mean, like that's just one quote. But you're getting a response from a big magazine like that. You're getting a Rotten Tomatoes review. You have an official IMDb. I mean, is any of this intimidating at all? But is it also a little overwhelming because it's the first time that you've done something this big? You know, I know you're doing a lot of media pressers and coverage for this kind of thing, but so what's that reaction like on a new filmmaker, you know, who's just breaking in and that kind of thing? Like, can it be overwhelming for people who might not understand?
Oh, dude, you saw me at that premiere. I was dissociated as fuck. I basically like died and was not alive until an hour into the after party where I returned to my body. I didn't know what the fuck happened, dude. That was so overwhelming, so stressful. You know, one-on-one press stuff is fine though, because I can like focus and like be in myself. But like generally speaking, I don't know why I am this way, but like I don't really take the nice stuff that personally. It doesn't really feel that good. And I'm actually kind of happy it doesn't, because part of me worried that I would like positive attention and that it would be And then I'd be like, oh fuck, now I have to spend the rest of my life being a slave to positive attention. But like low key, like I kind of just wanted to like go home and like read a book half the time. It's like, I liked watching the movie with the crowd and I liked doing the Q&As, but like when we'd go out afterwards, everyone would try and like talk. And like, I'd always feel like I wasn't giving each person enough time because there was a bunch of people and like, it just made me feel really guilty and like overwhelmed. I'm like, I wish I could talk to everyone, but I can't. And like, maybe I'm talking to this person too long because maybe there's someone who wanted to talk and like, I'm like disappointing people. And like, I don't know, it was too much. I would say overall, like, honestly, I had better experiences when it was just like all of us just like hanging out, like chilling when we were having a good day on set. I think I like doing the work more than I like
the book work.
being at festival. Like the red carpet thing, I was like, how long can I like I can't smile sincerely for more than like 10 seconds. Like who has that much smile in them? That doesn't make any fucking sense. Like I was just like, and so all the photos of me on the red carpet, I'm looking dazed. I'm looking like I'm on heroin or something. I don't know what's going on, dude. But like it was crazy. Harrison's over here just like losing his mind.
I was the same way. You know, like I don't know. I was so stressed out at the premiere that I think I broke out in hives during the movie. I was like, oh God.
We walked out. We walked out. We were like, there's so much we have to do better next time.
I know. All we could talk about was what we had to do better on the next one. Like, I don't know. I talked to Jake. I was like, you know, I don't know. You know, I know you feel this way. It's weird to watch yourself on screen. I feel like I kind of get the same way. Like when my stuff plays on the screen and I have to just sit through it with the crowd. I'm like, I'm cringed out. Like, it's personal, you know? I don't know.
It's the personal attention, because to whatever someone's detail was, like Nicole too was our amazing costume designer, and Jared, our production designer, like everybody's looking at their own craft on the screen. Like I'm sure you were like, oh my God, is Zach about to go out of focus, or is that about to do this? Or oh, we didn't use this take. You know, that like it's always because the crew is the only people that knows the full parameters of it. It's you're never gonna be 100% satisfied to a point, but I mean, seriously, like when you don't know those details and it's like an organic experience, no one would know any wiser because it still came out sharp, you know. And that I think it's hard to leave that at the door, I think. So I know what you guys mean. I have a few more questions for you guys, but
sure, please.
Each of you, I would love if you could give me a favorite day or experience and then a biggest challenge.
It's day 5. We love day 5.
Day 5
love
was the
day
best
5.
day. Yeah. Okay.
Day 5. We knew it too.
You know the problem
day 5. On production, every day I was like, I think that was the best day we had. That was the best one. I said that every fucking time, but like I actually got it right on day 5.
Okay.
I think it was just serendipitous, right? Because like I think we went in thinking day 5 could be a train wreck, right? Because we lost the bleachers location. We had to do it in the loading dock.
It was going to rain too.
We had to do the school bus stuff that day, and we were like, oh, how's this going to work? And it was crazy because I think the day started, we were doing the loading dock thing, and surprisingly, it went without a hitch. Like, everything went right. We were like, is today actually going to go okay? And then, so I think it was maybe the next scene we shot was like the under the sweatshirt kiss, and then immediately after that, we started getting thunderstorm warnings, and we were in shelter in place, like in the office of the tile warehouse. And we started looking at each other like, nope, this is it. This is where the day goes downhill. And then, so we're inside of the bus, you know, it's about halfway through the day at this point, and it is pouring rain around us. We're in shelter in place inside of a school bus that we're supposed to be shooting in for like a midday sunny afternoon, like almost adjacent to sunset. And we're like, we're screwed. We're done. Like this is gonna
There's
do us
footage of in the Lemmy BTS documentary where I'm sitting next to you and literally like Harrison's like, maybe it's gonna be okay, and then a big crack of thunder, and I literally fall behind the chair and do like a Joker moment cackle where I'm like like I fall into the chair, and
we thought it was over.
We're toast.
But then the sun came out like moments later. It was the most beautiful sunset we got of the whole shoot. And then we finished the bus scenes on time, ahead of schedule, with enough time to film like an hour of B-roll afterwards, which ended up being a major sequence in the movie.
Literally like some people's favorite scene. Like, you know, that scene where they're having before the bowling alley. That was totally unplanned. So dude, you look at day 5. So you have the date montage, the fingering scene on the bus, John on the bus, which we reincorporated to be like a shot in the end of the film too. Then you also have the freaking fight scene with them, the post Mary Slut fight scene.
Yeah.
And then the kissing oneer. Dude, that day was so goated.
Oh, you mean under the sweatshirt?
Because it ended up being a oneer. We
That's
shot
right,
coverage
yeah.
of it, but Ed very correctly just made it a oneer, which was an excellent decision. Ed's our editor. Yeah, dude, that was an absolutely goated day.
So that was your positive. Do you have a negative, or it's just something that just give me
we have
one?
so many negatives
yeah,
for the
We're
bowling
filled with
alley,
negative stuff.
No,
about the fucking bowling.
just a hard
You know
moment.
the bowling alley, dude.
No,
You
yeah.
know the bowling alley.
It was a tough day,
dude. We
Yeah.
were getting our dude. Do you remember when we were gonna shoot where they get kicked out, and Jared was like, "Wait, you're looking in this direction? What the hell?" That man never said "what the hell," maybe in his entire life up until that
like
moment.
a head scratcher.
He was like, "What the hell?" He's like, dude, he had like a drill in his head.
Yeah, I think you guys were doing.
You guys were like, cover that snowmobile. That was snowmobile. It was
lawnmower?
snow blower.
Yeah.
But it was like an industrial one. It weighed like 500 pounds. We couldn't just move it. So he was like, I have some scrap wood in the truck. Just drills it into the shed that covered that, and then yeah, we were just that was really funny.
That was a
good.
brutal day. Day one also
was
holds
hard.
a very special place in my heart because I had this genius idea. I was like, dude, if we start with a 7.5 page day, we're gonna have so much momentum. It's gonna be sick. And then dude, not only was it 7.5 pages, it started with like 2.5 pages of exteriors, and it was hot as hell. And Kala's boom mic broke, so we had no sound. It was first shot. Jake was inside, and I was just like scrunched up in the car with my hand. And I had gotten into a debate with Harrison immediately before the first shot. I was like, Harrison, the 50 is not, it's not giving Keith's hand the presence it needs. You need to go to a wider lens. And Harrison's like, it's going to take a long time to do a lens swap. I'm like, just swap it, swap it.
I think we were deliberating about whether it would make his hand look too big too.
Yeah.
We were like, should we
good
go to
shot.
28? Oh, it's great. It was the first
Yeah.
shot of the film. It had to be good. But if we didn't get that one right, we would have been on I think day one in the grand scheme of things was actually an okay day.
There was a heat wave for that too, right? That first day it was like scorcher.
We got obliterated. There was freaking neighbors lawn mowing. We had cars going
we had
by.
to pay off some neighbors.
Pay off the neighbors. The sun was going by overhead. And then additionally, I would say that, and then maybe the prayer thing before they go upstairs of day two. Those were two sequences where I can genuinely say, like, had I directed it better, like, had I actually gotten better coverage, those scenes might still be in the film. Like, I just shit the bed on that. And I was so scared to tell Keith that basically there's a cab driver in the film, and the character puts coins in his hand for a really reason that you'll find out. The cab driver in the script was supposed to get out and confront him about the fact that he shortchanged him. It was supposed to be a cringe moment. And we got these fun push-ins. And then when it came time to get like the three-way conversation, like, I just could not get like it to feel frenetic enough.
Yeah.
And so I had to cut it. And I was so nervous because like Keith is like a very threatening man. He's a big old guy.
Oh yeah.
And he's got a gravelly, tone of voice. And so like, dude, for months he was calling me up. He's like, I can't wait to see this thing. I've only had winners. Everything I've been in, it's uncut. It's been real good. Because he was in Uncut Gems. He just calls it uncut. But so he's like, I'm looking forward to it. And dude, like for months, I just didn't tell him I cut his scene. I was like, we're going to deal with this later. And then like, it was like a week before Tribeca. He's like, you tell me where I got to be for the photo shoot. And I was like, Keith, I got to tell you, we lost some stuff in the editing room. He's like, don't you worry. It's okay. I was like, no, Keith, I basically cut out your whole thing by the door. And he's like, listen, I knew what I was getting into when I signed up for this thing. And I saw the way you were going. You were going very quick. Very quick.
So it came down to coverage.
This motherfucker knew it. Yeah. So day one was brutal.
That's okay.
I remember, dude, like it felt like a black hole had opened up inside my stomach and compressed within it. It felt like literally like my own stomach was like turning into itself and being absorbed. Like there was a hole in me. I was so fucking stressed and so angry because I was like, are we fucked? Like, and then I just resolved myself. What I told myself was, I'm like, okay, I'm going to accept right now that I may not have a feature film on my hands, but I'm just going to try and enjoy this and do a good job. Yeah. I'm going to let go of the fact, like, I probably already fucked it up. But I'm going to take what I can learn from this. So that's another thing to go back to advice I would give is like, you will royally fuck up something on set. And in your head, you're gonna want to be depressive about it and angry. But you're like a general on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And okay, a bunch of your soldiers just died. But like, if you want to make sure that more don't die, you better like get your shit together.
That's true. It's
So
about rebounding.
It is. So we had to rebound hard on day one, and we did, because by the end of the day, we were ripping that 12 setup or 14 setup dinner scene. So day one was very difficult, but it was ultimately a microcosm of what worked, which is that mental fortitude of being like, accept that you failed here and just move on. Even if the whole day was shit, that's only 5% of the film because it's 20 days. So just keep on keeping on. And that's how I guess
that's all you can do. Yeah. I think one of my last questions too is individually or collaboratively, what's next for you guys? Like, what are you cooking on writing? Harrison, do you have anything that you're trying to shoot soon? Personal project or another project? Anything?
I don't know what's next.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a lot of work here and there, and you know, I work freelance. But I have 2 films that I'm looking forward to shooting next.
Nice.
One is Chris's next movie, which he's going to tell you more about in a minute. The other one is by another collaborator of mine. I shot my second feature film for her, and that's called Cannibal Mukbang. Her name is Amy. She directed that. She wrote another feature film called Trust Me, which hopefully we can get into pre-production pretty soon for. So I don't know what's going to come first, but I'm really excited for both of them, at least in terms of feature narrative stuff. But who knows? You know, something might come up that I'm really excited. Things always change, and new directions can come about at any time. But
cool.
I don't know. Chris is going to tell you all about a new film now called
I got Money Boy.
Too Blessed, Lemonade, Too Blessed.
Too Blessed, Too Furious, P, Jesus. Yeah, it's great. But
Lemonade Blessings.
Well, dude,
genius.
20% of people like call it Lemonade Blessings. I've just given up. I'm like, it's all right. It's fine. It's like, I get why people, but yeah. So I got this kind of like father son to Lemonade's mother son. It's like a 2021 like period piece that's set amidst the GameStop stock short squeeze, where basically this total fail son, he's like, you know, redoing his freshman year of business school, spending his time at home, like playing his dad in chess, like gambling like $100 a game, just getting his ass handed to him, going online, playing cards. His dad's just kind of like, when are you going to like make something of yourself? And they're about to get kicked out of the house because the parents are divorced, and mom's like, it's a booming real estate market. If you can't buy my half of the house, we're just going to sell this house. And so the dad's like, I don't know where I'm going to come up with this money. And the son's like, I got an idea. I'm going to gamble my dad's life savings away on GameStop stock because this thing is like blowing up. So he loses most of his dad's money, and he has to get it back before his dad realizes, basically. So it's kind of just like a crazy online Reddit gambling thriller comedy family thing. It's wacky tobacky. It's anxiety inducing, just a lot of bad decisions. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And you want to stay? Do you want to stay in comedy, or do you want to keep pushing the genre norms and different things too?
This one's probably less funny than Lemonade. I don't know. I'm not even going to think about that because honestly, like, things are funny normally when you just try to make them truthful, and then people can decide whether or not they find them funny. So I have a feeling people will probably find aspects of it funny, but I won't even like think about that. But yeah, I'm down for whatever. I do think I like tonal shifts, so I definitely don't think I could do anything that takes itself like deadly seriously. That's just not really my vibe. I don't think I can take myself that seriously ultimately.
Cool.
But yeah.
One last question for you guys.
Yeah.
Lemonade just finished this run in Tribeca. Are you guys trying to exhibit it in other festivals? Are you trying to get it distributed? You don't have to get into specifics, but just what's the next plan for people to see this movie?
Yeah, so we're seeking distribution right now. We just got out of the festival, so there's a variety of distributors that we're talking to. We're super stoked to go with the one that's going to give us some form of limited theatrical, and then we'll probably get a streaming release at some point down the line. But we haven't decided on anyone. It's really just about finding the person who cares the most about the film that we all worked really hard on. And yeah, we're out to other festivals as well. Getting into Tribeca kind of makes it so that a bunch of other festivals will reach out to you and be like, hey, send us a screener. So we're trying not to commit to the next festival just yet, because it's actually considered poor practice to commit to too many festivals if you're seeking distribution, because the distributor might want to be like, hey, I'm going to release you in like 8 months. So in like 4 months, I'm going to start putting you in festivals to build up to the release. But like, if you're playing at all the festivals, you could, in theory, play out your audience in certain like cities against certain demographics. So that's one thing I learned throughout this process, which is that if you're seeking a decent path for distro, you actually don't want to play too many fests. You want to get a really good world premiere and then hopefully get distro, and then you'd work with the distributor to plan the rest of the festival strategy accordingly.
Cool. Oh, that's great. That's also great advice too. Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to say about Lemonade Blessing and just like what journey this has been for you, just debuting your film and just getting it this far too?
Well, I feel bad. I wish we had talked more about your experience on it, because you are like an integral part.
This is about you guys.
No, it's about us.
You busted your ass, man.
No, dude, you absolutely worked your ass off. And also, it was a really small crew. I mean, you quite literally made up 33% of an entire department that, again, had to dress up. Do you have any stories that you remember from set that you wanted to share?
Me and Calissa were actually just talking about this. She was our art director too, for people who don't know. And we while you guys were in the school location shooting something else, we were trying to set up for the library.
Oh my god!
And Jared sent us.
Yeah.
This is Jared's fault. This is his. And this is so funny. And he knows I'm joking too. But so he told us to go get these tables for the library for something. There were these massive chemistry tables. Like they probably weighed like 150 pounds each or something. And so we just like threw them on the dollies or something. And you guys were totally somewhere else in the school. And then we get like 3 of them in there because it had to look like a busy library. Because I think we were running around. Everyone was running around so much. I think there was like a it's going to be a busy library, so we'll get a bunch of tables. All right, whatever. So we get like 3 or 4 of them, and they're heavy. And then like Calissa's getting all these chairs, she's stacking them. And she took a video of it too. She has it somewhere. And we set it all up. Probably took us like a half hour or whatever. And then you guys shot the library thing, and I think it was only like a corner,
direction,
like one table. I don't even know if you saw the table.
And then in the final fucking shot, it's literally like this much real estate.
Yeah.
It's like a single close up, and then like the shot of the paper. We could have shot that thing on a green screen. Nobody
cut the dolly. I remember.
I cut the dolly. It was for a rhythm thing, and because Angelo already celebrated getting the invitation in the next scene, and it was slowing down the rhythm of the sequence. So, dude.
And it was so funny though. Like honestly, it was just at that point of the day we were like, well, they have to go back. You know, like it was just like whatever. So
that was like the last thing of the day too. That was the last shot of the day. That was wasn't that day 10? That was the end of the week.
Like
too.
One of the last school days. Yeah, something like that.
That was either day 9 or day 10. Because what day did we shoot like Marry a Slut?
I don't know.
I don't know.
That was day 9. This was day 10. Yeah, it was the end of the week. That was the last shot of week 2. Yeah, I remember that.
It was just funny. But I mean, that is an art department thing. That is nobody's. That's just gonna happen.
Dude, you guys had to
I'll blame Jared.
No, but dude, Jared would be like, I'd be like, but we're not gonna look in that direction. He'd be like, but just in case.
Yeah.
Perfect Jared, we called him.
He's on top of things. But
amazing.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great to talk with you.
Of course, man.
We really appreciate having you here. I'm glad we got to talk one-on-one. You guys got to talk about like more specifics of the film and just have an open conversation, that kind of thing. But so if you guys are interested in any more YouTube content, we're gonna dissect this interview. We're gonna post some more clips all on our social media. We got more cinema news and entertainment news coming your way on all of our socials attached below. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're trying to get our subscriber count up to 1,000 so we can monetize and keep doing this for you guys. This is really fun stuff for us. We get to talk with filmmakers one-on-one and, just highlight stories that are worth seeing. And Lemonade Blessing is really one of those films that people will gravitate towards when it's given the chance to do distribution. And these guys really dump themselves into this work. They work really hard. They're really aspiring to do great things. So keep them on your radar. We're really excited to share this interview with you guys. So thank you for making it this far. More stuff to come. Just signing off. I'm Zach Miller. This is Chris Merola.
Hi. Thanks.
And this is Harrison Kraft. And thank you guys again for being with us.
Dude, such a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
This is The Culture.